Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. My name is Chet Zar. Got a great episode for you today. My interview with Martin Darkside, who's a great artist who does really cool, dark still lifes and all kinds of awesome stuff. But he's great. Really like his work a lot. And we had a great conversation. Very free flowing and conversational, just the way I like him. So that's coming up. What's been going on? Got to the halfway point of shipping dystopia books. Thank God. So, yeah, 620 something, 25 books, I think I have to ship. And I have gone over to, I think we're right at halfway. So that's kind of a milestone. And that's been taking up most of my time. And I started doodling tool posters. So that's the rest of this week. That's pretty much been it. Oh, I had a crazy thing happen the other day. So now I go to sleep early. I've been on this early schedule and I started losing weight. My pants are falling down, so that's good. But walking every day and just being more healthy. And so I go to sleep at like 8:30 or 9, sometimes even 8. And I get up at 5. And then I go and I walk my dog, baby girl, early, like around 6 when it's just getting light. And yesterday I heard my neighbor yelling outside, and she was chasing these coyotes away. And like coyotes are not that big of a deal around here. You see them in the, like if you're up really early or in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m, you'll see coyotes running down the street. And but apparently I was talking to her, because she lets her cat out in the morning to walk around, and she was shooing these coyotes away. And I was talking to her. Apparently there's been, I think, 3 coyotes hanging around. So I waited a little longer, just to let the coyotes get away or go away. Because usually you just kind of, yell at them and they run away. It's not a big deal. But so I started walking down the street, and there was this coyote in this person's yard, like a block down. And I had brought a stick with me just in case, like a broom handle. And so I saw it and I started yelling at it and hitting my stick on the ground. And it just was staring at me, growling. It wasn't running away. And I kept kind of yelling at it. My dog was, the hackles were going up in her back. And then it kind of, it walked away from this yard a little bit, but it wouldn't run away. It kind of walked a few steps and then it kept turning around and looking at us. And I kept walking towards it. It'd walk a few steps away, turn around, look at us. And then finally I thought, this thing is not running away like a normal coyote. So I turned around. We just went back up the street, and then it started following us, which was really freaky. And I kept turning around and like yelling at it, and it just wasn't really going away. It kept kind of following us. And so I just went back inside, and this morning I looked down the street and it's laying in the yard of the house that it was hanging out in. So I don't know what's going on. This is not normal coyote behavior. Kind of freaky. It's like coyotes are going crazy around here, along with the rest of the world. Anyway, that was my exciting morning. I don't know what's going to happen with the coyotes. I just got to start carrying a stick with me and maybe some pepper spray or something. I don't want to hurt the coyotes, but I don't want them to attack me or my dog, because maybe it's got rabies or something. That's why it's acting weird. I don't know. That was the excitement of my week. I don't think anything else really that exciting has happened. Anyway, yeah, got to do new patrons, if there are any. If you want to join and support the podcast, it is patreon.com/darkartsociety, which I need to go to right now. And you get your name read on the air, you get in the Discord server, you get on the Facebook group, and you support the podcast, become part of the community. Big things will be happening. I'm trying to get my life together here this year. I really think I'm going to do it this year. I mean, I'm further ahead than I have ever been before. So that's good. Oh, I've also been feeding these crows. I'm trying to make friends with these crows. That's the other thing that's been going on. There's all these crows that live in the neighbor's yard, tree next door. They're really cool. So they're starting to come near me. They come down on the ground when I feed them. Okay. New subscribers to the Patreon. Let's hear it. Sometimes there aren't any. So maybe there isn't going to be any. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. No. No, but a couple of people raised their pledges. So that's good. So thank you for raising your pledges, you guys. Yeah. Patreon.com/darkartsociety. Also, we've got our sponsor. I've got two sponsors, one being Beautiful Bazaar. What is their website? I don't technically have to give them one today, I don't think. I have these dates scheduled out. This is all kind of new to me. They wanted certain dates. Let's see. See, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm telling you, I'm the worst. Yeah, it's not. I'm not supposed to do it yet, but I just it's the Beautiful Bazaar art prize. Is the thing they're promoting, which is a cool. You could search Beautiful Bazaar art prize, but Skull Shoppe is our other sponsor. So Skull, SKULL, maker of awesome skulls like this. They look totally real. I use them for all my reference, and they're amazing. So skullshoppe.com, SHOPPE. And if you join at the Patreon at the $5 level, at the end of every month, they will draw names of the $5 and up people on the Patreon. And one of them will win a free skull. So anyway, check them out. I've been recommending their skulls for years. They're the best. I think that's all. Okay. I think that's it. Okay. So let's get on with the interview with Martin Darkside. Hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Okay. Hey, Martin.
Hey, Chip.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing very good.
Thanks for coming on the show.
No, it's my pleasure. It's I honestly didn't think I'd be coming on to doing this podcast for another year or so in my career, but here I am.
Your stuff's great. I mean, I've been watching you for a long time on Facebook and stuff. Yeah, I love what you do. You're doing these really cool, creepy still lifes. You did a still life of some eyeballs in a jar, right?
Yes, that's what I've just been doing that. That's one of the pieces for my the show that's coming up. It's part of the Frankenstein piece.
Oh, excellent! I love that. That was really great.
I've actually kept the eyes in the jar, and I've put it on my little curiosity cabinet thing that's and they're just sort of sat there staring at me now because I look so cool in the jar. I was like, okay, I'm going to keep that. I'm not going to throw that jar away and
that's so
wash
cool.
The eyes.
What did you use for eyeballs?
I made them.
Oh, you made them?
Yeah, it's simple. Super Skull Shoppe. like aluminium foil insert inside, and then I just painted them up, just oil painted it.
Oh, cool.
And then a bit of red wool to create the veins in the nervous system.
That stuff works
then,
great.
Yeah, and then I wanted to get that shine that you get on the eyes, so I just used clear nail varnish.
Oh, there you go.
Slapped that on, and yeah, it worked. It worked great.
That's great. Nothing beats quick and dirty.
That's all I wanted. As long as they look good in the jar, they don't need to look realistic.
Yeah,
just look good in the photographs and the painting. That's all I needed to do.
Yeah, right. I remember there was a I don't know, a viral post going around years ago where you take like what do they do? I think they take a photo. Now I'm totally blanking out. They like take a photo of someone's head and print it out and then put it in a jar.
Put it in the jar. Yeah, I was actually going to do that, but I couldn't get a jar big enough.
Yeah, it looks like, so cool.
It's I was actually going to do that. It was either do that or get like a Halloween mask, sort of human face Halloween mask, and put that inside the jar. But I just couldn't get a jar big enough to do it.
You might not be old enough, or it might not have even been a thing in the UK. But that Alfred Hitchcock Presents, that TV show that was like old black and white, pre Twilight Zone?
Yeah, it was on, but it was always like really late at night, and it was on. I believe it was on Channel 4, back in sort of the late 80s, early 90s, and it was one of those programs that was on really late at night, when just random shows that were put on that they could have put on through the day at normal times. They just put these weird shows on at night.
Yeah, it kind of makes it cooler in a way.
Yeah.
But there's one episode. I don't remember anything about the episode except for this. There's a head in a jar, and it is the creepiest thing. It's like, it's really, you have to search it out. Like, I'm going to go search it out after this, now that I thought about it, because it's just so creepy. The hair's all flow. It probably looks really bad, but I remember it looking super creepy. Like, it's distorted and the eyes sticking out and the hair's all weird.
No, I definitely want to do stuff like that for that piece, but I just it was one of those things where I was running out of time. I only have so much space on the canvas or the panel. It was only a 10x8 painting that I was doing.
Oh, okay.
So when you try to fit all those objects into a 10x8 thing, everything starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So when you're putting those bigger objects in, everything gets smaller.
Right.
But yeah, it was one of those things I had to check off the list, right? Take that out, because I wanted the initial idea of the piece was going to be a really big, extravagant, 20-inch by 22-inch by 18-inch or something, like crazy big, and you get all these things in, and it got smaller and smaller and smaller. Like, okay, this is what I've got to make the decision now. Yeah,
the limitations of time and stuff like that. So, okay. Tell us about yourself. Tell us your story. What's your life story? How did you get to where you are today? How did you get into dark art? Where were you born? All that.
Where was I born? Well, I ran in Yorkshire, in the UK, so sort of the middle of the UK, in a town called Bradford. Lived here pretty much all my life, other than when I went to university back in the early 2000s.
What's it like there?
There's some nice parts, and then there's the rest of it.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's weird. You've got the main sort of city centre in the town that I live in, and then as you get further out from it, you've got all these kind of like housing estates, and then in between those is like parks and woodlands and stuff, and then it's just kind of it's not great.
It's not great. In what way, though?
Not great.
Because we in America, we have this vision of, you hear Yorkshire and you just think of, oh, it's gotta be like really cool.
It is when you get out of the cities, and there's all the little towns and villages and things like that. It's great out there, and there's all the countryside and the mountains and everything. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Right.
Once you get out of this, like, the main cities, it's really nice. We've got some beautiful towns and little villages and stuff. But if you're in like the cities and stuff like that, yeah, it's not great. It's really not great. They tried to throw money in and try to make it look pretty and nice, and it doesn't. There's only so much glitter you can throw on a turd and it's stuttered.
Okay, so anyway, that's
So,
that's where
yeah.
you're from. Continue.
So that's where I'm from. Background, always been into artwork. Always been into art. I was always drawing as a kid. That's pretty much all I did. My concentration level in school was, if I'm not drawing or doodling something, then there was no concentration. You know, all the other subjects.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you have ADD, or do you think you might have
it? Basically, later on in life, it was kind of diagnosed with dyslexia.
Oh, dyslexia. Wow. All these things are very related, though, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know a lot of artists who have got it. And but back then, in sort of like the 80s and 90s, it wasn't a thing.
Right. I know.
It wasn't a thing. It was like you were the stupid kid.
Right.
And
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty. I want to go and get diagnosed because I'm pretty sure I have it. But man, I used to try so hard in school, and I would always get like C's and D's and the occasional B in like English, and then I would get A's in art all the time. But man, I could not. I was trying as hard as I could, and I couldn't get above that.
It was the same, exactly the same. No matter how hard I tried, it was always anything like writing and reading and stuff like that. I loved doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wouldn't sit right, and it was a real struggle. But in art, A's, B's constantly all the way through school, all the way through higher education, everything. But it wasn't until I got diagnosed with dyslexia, and it was like, okay, the rest of it now makes sense.
Did it help to get a diagnosis? Just to know that you weren't a dummy. That's kind of kind of like how I feel. Like at least if I get a diagnosis, I can tell my wife, see, I'm not an idiot.
There's always that, but there's always ways of working around it. Though I've always had friends and stuff who have helped me get through certain things. So if I need help with like writing or reading and stuff, like I can write, I can read, I can do it.
Right.
But it's not comfortable for me to do.
Right.
There's points where I do struggle with it, like getting words out onto the page, and then when I do get it onto the page, sometimes it makes absolutely no sense.
Wow. Do you do the flipping, where the words flipping around?
Yeah, well, I do.
Like
certain words are simple word like the, so THE. When I write it down, and it does it every single time, no matter how hard I try stopping doing it, it's TEH.
Oh wow!
Every single time.
What a trip.
And it's like certain words like that, I do it. But one way I've got around it is writing everything in capital letters.
Interesting.
So it stands out more.
Right.
So pretty much when I write anything now, I write it all in capitals.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's the I'll stop after, but it's sort of like, I kind of want to see if I do have ADD, because it's more for me. It's like a lot of this kind of brain fog, and it's like once in a while my mind will just stop, and I can't. It's like I don't know what the fuck I was just thinking, or I'll read a page a million times and not get the information. It's really hard for me to concentrate on things that I'm not interested in, and I probably wouldn't get medicated for it. Unless, I might try it, but just to know.
I think you've got this long in your life with it.
Yeah, it's like I'm so old at this point, and it's like I've managed. I've obviously got workarounds. So
yeah.
But anyway, so I'm sorry. So I was just curious. So go on. I don't know where you were though.
I had no idea.
That was an ADD thing.
That was an ADD moment, going down a rabbit hole, and you come out the other end, you have no idea where you are. So that was pretty much it. I went all the way up to university and college and stuff. Did my degrees in art, which went nowhere.
You got degrees though?
I've got degrees. Cool. Yeah, it doesn't do anything in the UK.
I know, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're classically trained then? Technically, I mean,
in certain aspects, yeah. I was trained, but at the time, I was very arrogant with my artwork. I thought I knew everything.
All right, yeah. So that's so common for young artists, I think.
Yeah, and it took me a while to sort of realize
You don't know anything.
I don't know anything, especially about oil painting, because oil
Right.
painting was, I tried it when I was in college. I didn't get on with my tutor. We had some little, headbutting going on, and it put me off. It put me off working with oils, and I think it was just the way he was teaching me. But I think he was right how he was teaching me, but because I was so arrogant.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it. I didn't see it until many, many years later.
Yeah.
Easily a decade later, I was like, okay. Now I understand. now I get what he was doing.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my high school art teacher. She kept I kept wanting to mix black and to darken all my colors, and she'd be like, "No, you mix your primary colors in to gray them out and darken them." And I just would not fucking do it because I knew better than her. It's like so stupid. And like all the best artists I know, like the really good artists, all of them. I don't know any that just like are like, I'm the shit. They all think like I don't know shit.
Yeah. That's my mentality on every single piece that I do. Even though I've been doing it for so long, it's like I'm constantly learning. It's like, right, I don't know how to do this. We've now got Google, we've now got YouTube, research the crap out of it.
Yep.
Understand what I'm doing, and then experiment.
Right.
Or just jump straight into a piece. Just normally with me, it's like, oh, I can see, I know what he did there, and I'll jump in and go, no, I didn't.
Yeah. Your stuff is very like well composed and stuff, though, so I can't imagine it'd be easy to just jump in. It's like seems like you do
there's
a lot of
planning.
A lot of planning.
Especially the work I'm doing now, which was a big shift up until 2 years ago. Before I was doing the work I'm doing now, the still life stuff, I was doing a lot of figurative work, a lot of kind of monster and characters and weird portraits and stuff like that.
What was the change? What caused the change?
The change was I was doing a show with Shane Isikowski, and the pandemic hit, and it just turned everything on its head. And we'd done all this work, and the show was getting cancelled and moved around, and then we couldn't fly. I couldn't fly to come over, and the show got moved, and it just got disheartening the more I got into the work, and I wasn't enjoying doing the work. It got to a point where it was just a task. Just right, I've got this many pieces to do. Like, get this piece done, on to the next one. Get the piece, this piece. I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I was like, I've got to do something that I enjoy. I love painting, I love art, but I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I played around with a few still lifes at that point, and then I stupidly jumped into one of the biggest paintings I've ever done, the still life. I think it was like 2 foot by 3 foot, and it was so complex, and there was so many elements and things in it that I've never even painted before, and colors I've never worked with. And I set myself a chance of, right, this is what I'm going to do. So I spent I think about 4 months on this painting. And then once I did that, I was like, I need to keep doing this. This is what I want. And it was everything from the process of finding all the little pieces and all the little oddities and, all the props, and then photographing it, playing with the lighting and stuff. Even though then the lighting wasn't as complex as how I do it now. But I loved everything about it. So going from that point on, I get excited now. When I get an idea for a piece, it's like, okay, now the hunt starts. Now, if I don't have the props, I don't have the skulls or the candles that I need or whatever I'm going to put in it, it's like, right, can I make it? Can I buy it? Can I afford to buy it? Most often, if I can't afford to buy it, it's like, can I make this?
Right.
And then look into the process of making, like the eyeballs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
So it's just an enjoyment now. It sparks a new life in my artwork, and I just want to keep going with it, see where it goes. And we still like so many possibilities with it that you can do.
Oh yeah, I could totally see going that way. I could totally get into that. I think
you could.
I
think we could do it. Yeah.
It's I mean, I see the appeal like of setting things up. It's very like, I mean, if you see my studio, it's kind of just a mess, but I've always just had
mine.
Yeah,
I've always had on this side of it. You can't see it, but that is exactly the same. Yeah.
It's like I've always, on my shelves and stuff, set things up just little figures and weird
Yeah.
monsters and stuff. And it's like I could totally see the
I think
appeal of
that would be really cool to see something like that. You know, all the little like casts and stuff and the busts that you've made,
yeah,
just
that
put
would
them
be
all
cool. Yeah.
together and
Yeah.
just doing it like still life. From I think that'd be a really cool little thing for you to do.
Yeah, that would be fun. Um yeah, uh what so your accent is from your that is it like a
Yorkshire.
common, it's like a Yorkshire accent?
It's a Yorkshire accent. For the section of the part of Yorkshire where I'm from, that's where there's many in Yorkshire alone. There's kind of four regional accents in Yorkshire. So you've got north, south, west, east, and then you've got like variations in those from town to town, city to city, and they all change slightly.
I know it's such a trip because it wasn't until I traveled to the UK that I started noticing, because it's like when you grow up in America, it's like there is an English accent. You know what I mean?
It's English accent's London, or the Queen's English.
Yeah, exactly.
They're the two accents. They might know, like, well, I say Scotland or Ireland, but even though they're in the part of the UK, they're completely different, separate countries. But everyone thinks, especially in America, everyone from the UK sounds the same. They have a sound like Harry Potter, or the Queen. And it's really not. That's a small part of the country, a tiny little part of the country that sounds like that.
Yeah, it's so funny. And I once I went, I think it was once I went over there, I started noticing all the different accents. And it's so interesting because it's like they all sound actually very different. Now, when you get an ear for it, it's like, man, they don't sound it. How was I getting these confused? It's like they sound so different. Like you can tell if you know it, if you know them, you can kind of, tell people that are from Wales, and you could tell people that are from London, and you could tell people that are like more from the city and people that are more from the country. It's just like, it's exactly like that in America too. So it totally makes sense. It's just one of those things you don't really think about until you encounter it, I guess,
Yeah. And like with the UK being so small as well, you've got all these regions and accents in such a small space.
Right.
I think the size of what the UK, I think it's about the size of what Florida.
Oh, really?
Bigger than Florida. So you've got all crazy. That squeezed into that small space.
Yeah. Jam-packed.
And it's an interesting country to be in at the moment, anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, everywhere is pretty interesting these days. Okay, so how did you get into the dark stuff? Was this something you were always into?
Yeah, I've always been into the dark stuff. Yeah. It's always been. I've always loved like horror films from a very young age.
Was your family okay with that, or did anyone?
Yeah, pretty much. It wasn't a really big thing. I think I got to a point and I was watching stuff and it was like, okay, he's not completely freaked out by this. And then I just started watching stuff, and I've always watched it. But actually painting horror things or drawing horror things didn't come until a little bit later on, probably until into my 20s, mid to late 20s. Before that, I was doing like a lot of fantasy kind of art. So a lot of dragons and stuff. And I love doing that. But again, I got burnt out from doing that. The ideas just became repetitive.
Right.
Even though you could do so many crazy things, I just got that brain fog and I couldn't go forward with it.
Right.
So I started doing kind of like zombie portrait, pin-up stuff, and which was cool. It was fun to do. I got a nice bit of work from doing that, but that was very early on in what, as you have classified, my career as art, when I started making a little bit of money from it. And I did that for, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years, maybe I was doing that sort of work for. And then that progressed into doing more kind of gothic-y horror sort of work and kind of creaturey stuff. And then, like I said, I got burnt out from doing that. I needed to make a change, and I completely went 360 and I started doing still life work, but still keeping it dark and having that dark element sort of thing.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's that's when you have that feeling about your work, that's how you're doing the work you're supposed to be doing. Like every artist should have that feeling. Like be getting excited about what they're working on. If you're not excited about it, then you're probably not fulfilling your artistic purpose or something, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, like I said, I've gone through points like that throughout my art career, but I've never got the feeling or as excited about the work as what I am now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just an age thing, an educational thing of like all the knowledge that I've been kind of taking in and like researching and all the new stuff I've known about still life work,
Right.
but it never interested me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know if it's just an age thing or just growing up with in the art thing and moving forward and understanding what you can actually do with it to tell the stories, or
Right.
you know, like the new series I've just worked on for my new show. It's all about stories that either I've read or I've seen films, or so it's something. It's all about classic Gothic horror. So it still fits in what I want to do and what I'm interested in. So
what's the show? Because I mean, we wanted to get you on to help promote the show and I mean, your stuff's awesome. I was planning on having you on anyway, but it just seemed like a good time since you have a show in the United States coming up. So that's cool.
It's I fly out next week, a week today actually.
Damn, that soon? I didn't realize it.
Yeah. I've got a show at Dan Kelly's gallery, Skull and Snake, and my show is called The Night Library.
Oh, I like it.
So it's kind of all based on, I basically picked out 5 kind of classic Gothic horror stories, mainly in sort of 19th century, 18th and 19th century stories. So you've got Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I the other ones.
I forget the other ones. Dorian Gray.
Oh, cool.
And I think there's another one in there. Honestly, my brain is so burnt out.
I bet.
It's been working, you know.
Such a cool idea, though. I love that idea. It's great, man.
Yeah, because you get most people who do stuff like those stories. They're doing character studies, or they're doing their version of those characters to try to show that kind of character and story in a still life. It was a challenge. It was a really good challenge.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a lot more subtle. Like you have to really
picking out certain elements that when someone looks at, hopefully someone looks at it and go, and that's the title of the piece, and go, oh yeah, I can see that. That's Dracula, and I can see that's Frankenstein.
Right. Yeah. Once you said that with the eyeballs in the jar, I was like, oh yeah, obviously, totally. It's cool though, because that's like a little, it's like you can put most, or a lot of still lifes, or maybe it's because I'm not aware of the stories behind them, but traditional still lifes that you see are like some oranges and a vase. It's like, I don't think, unless I'm missing something, I don't think there's like a story there. Maybe there
most
is.
Of them are. Most of them that I've researched, there's not really a great deal of stories. They're very traditional. Like I said, there's fruit, there's flowers. I kind of take my style of work from the Vanitas, the Dutch Vanitas, 17th century stuff. So you've got like skulls, and it's all about life and death.
Right.
So that's kind of like the side of a little bit darker side of still life, where I kind of take my style from.
Yeah. It's cool though. It's a cool idea. Like you're playing with that idea in a way that's different, telling a story with it. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I've got other ideas that I'm working on, other stories that I'm going to try to tap into at some point.
I mean, you could do it for anything. You could do it for anything. You could do a still life about it if you think about it, like a band that you like, or a movie, or something that happened to you, or it's really interesting to think about it like that.
Yeah, you can do. The hardest thing about especially the way I do, because I find it's finding all the props to make sense for the story or whatever you're trying to say. So that's probably the hardest thing, and that sometimes that can take a couple of weeks just finding the props. And
That's got to be kind of fun though too, right?
yeah, it is, yeah, because I do like going out and, well, not really being able to go out and find out. Is that just mainly internet searching for stuff, since we, not being able to go out and a lot of places being closed. And
right.
Where I live, there's not exactly a place you can go to and find eyeballs in a jar or stuff like that. So,
yeah.
So a lot of the things, it's I've had a couple of good friends who have helped me out. One really cool friend who does 3D printing, Joe Graziano. I'll mention his name again because without his help, I wouldn't have been able to do a couple of these pieces.
Oh, cool.
And he 3D printed me some really, really cool skulls.
Oh, no way, really? Like animal skulls?
Well, yeah, they're animal skulls, but they're a lot bigger than what they are in real life.
Oh, cool.
I'll show you this one. So when you do the video thing, this will come out for people. They'll see it. So he did this 3D printed.
That's a 3D print?
It's a 3D print from an MRI scan.
That's insane, man. That looks totally real.
Well, I painted it all up. It was bright pink when he sent me.
Oh, okay.
This is like a vampire bat skull.
Oh, that is so cool.
And it's not, we didn't have the mandible jaw part, which is even gnarlier than the top part. But
that is so cool.
Like a vampire bat the skull's only maybe an inch.
Right.
And then we were discussing this. Is like, well, how big and crazy do you want to go to? And it was like, well, let's kind of get it sort of human skull sort of size, so that it kind of fits in with the whole Dracula and bat sort of story. We went up to pretty much the whole back end of the skull is the same as a human skull.
That is so cool, size, man.
And it's gnarly. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
It really is. I don't know that exists anywhere else. A human-sized vampire bat skull that I've ever seen.
And there is a company who does it, but they only do it till maybe 7 or 8 inches.
Okay. Still though, not a human.
And it's like not a human-sized one. And he also printed me out like a European grey wolf skull.
Oh wow!
So they're normally like maybe 7, 8 inches, maybe 9 inches the max. And he printed me one out, and it's like 15, 16 inches long, and it's a big, huge, gnarly thing. So that was kind of like for it was the Wolfman. That was the other side.
Okay, yeah, right.
So he printed me out for that. So that's the element that I used to depict like kind of the werewolf, wolfman sort of tale. So without his help, yeah, he's such a cool guy, and what he can do, as long as you get the files, you print anything.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So cool.
You, I think, hopefully you're taking photos of all these, because all of these would make really good. I imagine you could sell prints of these from and that's what's cool about it too, is like you can sell prints and there's no copyright issue. You know what I mean? Because you're not doing a Frankenstein portrait from the movie. It's like you're doing, it's like,
but my interpretation of
and people, Frankenstein fans will be into it, or Wolfman fans or whatever.
Hopefully, yeah. I have been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it. I've had a lot of people saying you need to sell your photographs, because your photographs itself are
NFTs.
On its
NFT. This is a perfect example.
But it is. I've not stepped into the world of NFTs yet. A lot of my friends.
I knew it was going to come up.
They're all there.
It always comes up now.
It always comes up. I think it's a cool. I think it is a really cool thing.
It's an amazing.
It's a lot of things.
Yeah, I know.
New stuff to learn. And I'm like,
yeah. There's a steep learning curve, but just the idea of using your reference, it's perfect, because obviously you're taking photos with a digital camera, and NFTs are kind of like made natively for digital art. So it's like, it's what you're doing is made for NFTs. Your reference photo is made to be made into NFTs, and it's like kind of perfect. It's almost like another way to monetize and to share your work in a totally different. It's cool, man.
Yes, it's something that I've thought about looking into, but while I've been kind of just doing stuff for this show and getting ready for that, I just didn't want to take any more.
Oh yeah, no, you got to be kind of focused. It's such a crazy, weird learning curve, and you have to really get involved in the community on Twitter and all that stuff to before you even start. But after the show, something to think about, man. I'm telling you,
it's definitely something to think about. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of that I still I'm friends with at the moment. They talk about it a lot, and when they start going down that deep rabbit hole and talking, it's like I'm completely lost. I know, and I'll pick up little bits, and then it's like, and it's all these different, sites, and like, I have no idea. Just give me some oil paints and paintbrush and a panel.
I've been there.
But you've been doing really well on the NFTs, from what I've seen.
Yeah. It's like cool. I'm feeling that way about the stuff I'm animating that you're feeling about these paintings, these still lifes. Like I'm so excited about animating existing paintings that it's just like it's just so much fun. I just wish I could work on them all the time. But that's the thing. It's like you have this byproduct of your process, and people are saying, oh, you should sell your photographs. It's like, no, you should make them into NFTs because it's perfect. It's perfect for that. But and it's not, as much as people say it's all about the money, it's not just about the money. It's like the money affords you to do something really cool on the blockchain, this thing that's happening right now. You know what I mean? It just so happens to pay well if you kind of do it right, which is great. It's not a bad thing.
It's not. If something's going to make a little bit of extra money, it's definitely not a bad thing, because selling artwork.
Oh man,
it's not always easy.
I've heard.
And, it's not always easy, and it's like I want to do, like I'm saying, I want to do kind of bigger, more elaborate paintings, but it's hard to sell big pieces of work.
I know.
So I'm having to work pretty small on some of the pieces, so like 6x4, 7x5, and going up to, like, say, 10x8, which is completely new for me, going that small with my work. So I'm used to working like 20x16 or
plus shipping. Bigger. If you're going to ship to the United States, man, forget about it.
All my work goes to the States.
Oh, really?
It's very rare I sell anything in the UK or Europe.
Yeah, what is up with that? You'd think that Europe would be the best place for dark art, and it's not at all.
It's not. No.
It's so weird. It makes no sense to me.
I'd say in the last 5-6 years, I'd say 98% of my work has gone to the States.
Wow. Crazy.
And then obviously COVID hit, and then nothing was selling in that time period, which was pretty rough.
Yeah.
But I just threw myself into the work. I didn't think about not making the money and stop worrying about numbers on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just do the work, put it out there. If someone's going to buy it, they're going to buy it. Just keep doing the work.
Right.
Don't get distracted by all the other stuff. Just keep going forward. And it's kind of the mentality that I've been keeping, and it's been doing good things. I think my work has definitely it's improved. So I keep being told from when I started doing still life to what I'm doing now, it's jumped forward over, like,
absolutely. Yeah, I've seen it. I've noticed. Yeah, it's like seriously leveled up.
Which is still a shocker that like you say that you've been watching my work and stuff. It's kind of like, yeah, okay. I must be doing something right at some point.
No, definitely, man. I pay attention. I'm always watching stuff I think is cool, or there's people doing good work. Yeah. So how long have you been painting professionally, I guess, or have you been painting since you got out of college?
Yeah, I never stopped painting.
Okay.
And like I said, I was selling a few bits of work here and there, but it wasn't like a full-time thing. I wanted to do it, but I had to work full-time.
Yeah.
So I did that all the way up until I think it was 2013. And I just had to make some serious changes in my life. with the job I was doing. My health wasn't great.
What was the job?
I was working in a nightclub.
Oh, wow.
So my hours were kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Working in a nightclub, and especially a rock nightclub, there's a lot of drinking, and
Yeah.
it just kind of took over my life. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. It just has to stop. And then I was like, okay, I'm leaving this job and I'm going to do my art full time, and I'm going to put everything I can into it. I had a little bit of money kind of to one side, and I just went for it. And
Wow.
that's pretty much what I've been doing since 2013. Obviously, learning as I go on the way, and I've had a couple of art studios, which were great to start with, and then they fell through because of the cost and stuff. With sales aren't coming in, you can't afford to pay for studios and stuff. So now I just I literally work out of my bedroom at the moment. I set up a studio space.
That's what this is. This is like my kid's old bedroom.
Yeah. And it's comfortable. I can get straight out of bed, start working. That's a bit of it's a curse and a good thing, because
and a blessing.
And you're constantly seeing the work. It's like, I can keep working for another 5-6 hours without getting any sleep. But yeah, and that's pretty much where I am. So the I've done gallery shows and stuff over the years, which have kind of been hit and miss. But it was always wanted to get my own, what I wanted to do into shows, which I was able to do on certain shows. And it was my work, but it always stood out against everybody else's, because it was darker than what everybody else was doing.
Right. What places were you showing? Like what galleries? What kind of shows were they?
A lot of it were in LA, actually. There was like Cactus Gallery. Cactus Gallery. I was working with a gallery in Portugal for a while, and I can never remember the name. Just recently changed.
But I mean, they weren't necessarily. My point is,
they were dark art galleries.
They weren't dark art galleries. So you're showing, because your stuff really can. That is another cool element that I didn't think about, is because you have this, because it's not overly, it's not overly dark, it's not over the top freaky, and it has traditional elements. You could show your stuff in a traditional gallery easily, and even though you're going to be on the darker side of things, you're still not going to be doing like freaky monsters or anything. So it can exist fairly easily in that.
It can kind of fit on that fine line between sort of the gallery scenes.
It's cool though. That's great, because that's how you sneak in dark art into the regular galleries. Sometimes you got to sneak it in like that.
Yeah, I used to do that with some of my other work, and it definitely stood out against everybody else.
Right.
Even though I tried to tone it down, it still stood out.
Right.
But actually working with dark art galleries, I've not actually had the opportunity yet to work with any of the dark art galleries.
Really?
Yeah, so like Dark Emporium, or
you haven't shown at Dark Art Emporium, or really?
I'm still. I was at that point where I was like thinking about going into Copro, but I didn't think I was at that point yet in my sort of skill level or career that I'd get into somewhere like that.
I think after this show is probably going to be a good calling card for getting into other galleries. From what I've seen, nice. Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, the work looks good enough to show at Copro or Dark Art Emporium for sure.
Cool. Yeah, well, thanks for that. But like I said, I'm working with Dan at his gallery, which has been a great
that's killer. Yeah,
and I love what Dan's doing.
Oh yeah, he's amazing, and his gallery's amazing. He's kind of like, it's like he's just making it happen. It doesn't exist there, so he's making it exist there.
Yeah,
and it's like, and he's getting such great response from his community and everything. It's really amazing that he's selling stuff there to people who live around there too, which is so crazy.
Yeah, it's people are actually coming to the shows. Or local. Which is awesome, and it's like I know he's been doing it for a while, but I mean, it's like working with the Dark Darkside doing the last show we did in October.
Mm-hmm.
It brought artists from like everywhere.
I know.
and there was so many pieces of work and just all those artists all in one place.
Yeah,
It was
amazing. Yeah, amazing seeing all these sold pieces too. He'd like show a picture. It's like, oh, this sold today. Oh, this, it was like, I couldn't believe it how much work he sold. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think it's at the end of it, I think it was maybe just over half of the show.
Yeah,
that's sold. And I know there's more work that's been sold since, but
yeah,
I believe there was like 80 pieces of work.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, like selling 40 pieces of art is insane for a show.
It's really cool. What he's doing there is amazing, and I'm really happy to be working with him, and obviously going over to do the show. My first time in the States, and I'm going to be there at the show and stuff like that. And
well, it's on the East Coast too, so you'll have less to less. It's not like you're going to LA either, where it's like less airplane time, right?
Just a little bit. I think the flight time in total is I think it's about 9 hours.
Yeah,
I'll be doing. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but it would have probably been almost double that if I was flying to the West Coast like LA and stuff.
Right.
So, and all the changes that you have to do. I'm only having to do one change with this one. I'll stop in Dublin, and then I fly into Boston, and then driving up to Maine.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm very excited for the trip, and then for the show, and I'm also doing a workshop while I'm there as well.
Oh, that's right.
Workshop.
So cool.
Which is apparently sold out. So,
all right, congrats, man. That's great. Have you done workshops before?
I haven't done workshops for about 20 years. The last time I taught was about 20 years ago, and I was teaching like 15, 16-year-olds.
Oh, wow.
I was like kind of a art support teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, for my art teacher who really got me to doing my artwork, she had a position opened, and she said, "Come and teach, learn." And I did that for I think a couple of months. And I was like, "Yeah, I can't teach kids. This is a nightmare. This is an absolute nightmare."
Well, kids, if they were motivated, if they were really into art, that would maybe be different. But that's a rough age, man. That's a rough age to teach.
When you've got a class of like say 25, 30 kids.
Oh man.
Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Interested.
Yeah, 15-year-olds. No, forget it. No, no.
Yeah. And
it's hilarious.
It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare to deal with that. So I was like, yeah, I can't do this. And while I was doing that, I had 2 other part-time jobs as well.
Oh, wow.
And I was getting ready, as I believe at the time, I was getting ready to go to university as well. So I had all that to deal with.
And these asshole kids don't want to learn art.
Don't want to learn. And all the interest in drawing his dicks and boobs on the page. And it's like, come on. Even though we probably did this exact same thing when we were that age.
Yeah, we would have been the interested students though, at least.
Yeah. To some degree. With it, we're taking aside the arrogance of thinking you know how to do things when you don't. So it's going to be an interesting thing. I'm hoping. I'm not going to be like strict on how I'm going to do the workshop. I'm going to keep it pretty free and open and just kind of show them what I do, and hopefully they'll learn something from it, because I think I've got some pretty cool techniques where people can put it into their own work and try, doing what I'm not saying do what I do, but put those techniques into what they do.
Right. Are you going to have like a thing where they set up a still life and paint it, or
I'm going to set up still life,
and then everyone can paint from that?
They can have a paint straight from the still life what they see. I'm also going to photograph it beforehand with all the lighting, because when you photograph it, it changes how the still life looks. So I'm going to do that. So they'll have like a print out of an actual photograph, so if they want to work from the photographs. I'm also going to put it on like a big screen as well, so they can actually see.
Cool.
see the photograph and stuff like that.
That sounds fun. Sounds like it's going to be fun.
I hope so. I'm not going to turn into some tyrant and just get flashbacks of someone throwing a chalkboard at my slapping my fingers with a ruler and stuff. I don't want to turn into that teacher.
Yeah, right. Nah, it'll be a captive audience. I'm sure people will be into it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like if adults, they're paying for it, they want to learn. They're not going to
want to learn. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time while I'm there.
What's the date of the show?
The show opens up on Friday the 13th.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect date for it to open up, and I believe it's going to be open for a month. It'll be hung up for so standard sort of show time. I've got yeah. So yeah, it'll be open for a month. So it'll open on Friday the 13th. I believe it's 6 till 10.
Okay, and that's Skull and Snake
Tattoo Studio and Art Gallery
in Maine.
In Maine, in North Berwick.
North Berwick.
North Berwick. I believe the address is number 50 Elm Street.
Cool.
Yeah. So it all ties in together. You've got the Elm
right.
Street and Friday the 13th and Gothic horror, and you're in Maine.
Perfect. Sounds cosmically aligning. So let's get into a little technical questions here. I'm just curious about like what's your technique for doing your still lifes? Are you doing it by eye, or are you tracing it and transferring it to the canvas? Or
well, once I've got all the props and everything, I set everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spend a day, 2 days photographing, changing things around, getting the composition right and the lighting right.
You improvise and play around, just try different things, and then decide when you look at all the photos, you kind of pick
when I look at the photograph and I go, right, that's the one that works. Right. I'm happy with that piece. And then I blow that piece up. I put it on the light box, do a quick sketch from there, and then I'll sit and I'll render it down a little bit once I've got the six, because some of them are pretty big.
Right.
When I draw them out. So then I'll sit with the image on my screen and I'll render a little bit more detail in, and I'll from the rough sketch that I've done, and then I transfer that onto a panel using black transfer paper.
Okay.
And then from that point, just seal it, a bit of fixative, some matte medium, and then I'll stain the canvas with burnt sienna, I think I will. So I kind of I start going to the traditional way of working.
Right.
So I do then I'd go and do a grisaille painting
for
full rendering of the painting.
Oh, really? You go all the way there?
Cool. All the way, full detail, everything. And then I go over that whole thing again in color.
Yeah.
So, I know. Yeah, I torture myself with it. So basically, I'm doing 2 paintings.
I like painting like that. I've always enjoyed it. It feels like I like the idea of. I mean, I don't do it very often anymore, but I went through a phase where I was doing it. Like I had a show called I did it for the show called Faces of Death at Last Rites Gallery, and I did it for no, it wasn't Faces of Death. It was called Endarkenment. I think it was at Last Rites Gallery. Like there's a painting I did called Chronic Anxiety, where this guy's got a cigarette and he's holding these like
I know which one you're talking about.
Bundle of nerves down here, and he's going like that. That was all grisaille, however you say it. And I like it because it felt like it takes longer, but it felt like I was more in control a little bit. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
just so much easier to think about color as a separate thing from the value. It's like it's in a sense, it's like I kind of prefer working that way if I have more time. I love the idea of painting in just the gray scale, black and white gray, and I just really enjoy that. It's like drawing. You know, it's like
Yeah.
drawing it. You know.
It's a cool thing just because when you're just working in value and not thinking about color. Because I don't do it in grayscale. I basically just use lead white and Van Dyke brown. That's why I
Okay.
used to do my grisaille
I've
thing.
never used Van Dyke brown. That's like it's like a what it's like a raw. It's like a what's it like?
It's kind of a mix of burnt and raw umber. So it's
Okay.
really dark.
Yeah, it's really dark, right?
Really dark. Like I use Van Dyke brown and French ultramarine to make blacks up.
Oh, okay.
To get a really nice rich black with it. I also use tubes of black. I'm not going to be a complete purist and just
I use black all the time.
If black's needed to work in there,
I'll do. You know what I've done a lot of times is I do black, and I let it dry, and then I glaze like a whatever, like an alizarin crimson or a French ultramarine or Prussian blue or something, and it just like it's kind of almost like mixing it together and painting it. You know.
Yeah. Well, I do that with my blacks as well. I'll mix other colors in with the black. So I'll mix like alizarin crimson in there. I'll mix a little like Prussian blue or French ultramarine in there, or some of like the deep greens and stuff if it's needed. So yeah, and then it's just spending whatever it takes me to do the full painting in the underpaint and grisaille thing, and then it's like, okay, now go over the whole thing again in color.
And then you got to paint the opaques back in too. That's what that took me so long to figure out, because I would in my early value grisaille paintings, it was like I would do the glazing and I was like, it's just not enough. There's something missing, because I don't know why I was learning it from a book, but I just didn't put two and two together. It's like it doesn't start to happen until you put the opaque highlights and stuff back in there, and the opaque, just you paint opaque color where it needs it, basically.
Where it's definitely needed. And one thing I've learned from doing this these still lifes is you don't always have to throw in really bright, vibrant colors for them to stand out.
Right.
Because once you put that, you can put a muted, say, red or green or something next to a dark area, and it instantly stands out.
Right.
It becomes brighter just on its own because everything else is around it is dark.
Yeah.
And working with like candlelight and stuff as well, that's the brightest point on the piece. So everything else, you start creating these levels in the piece of different light tones. With color, just with color,
right?
So you don't have to brighten something up,
right?
With white, you can do that brightness with color. And it's something that I've learned from this. Before it was like, just throw a lot of white in there, that makes everything brighter.
Right.
But
you know what you should try? You should try, if you haven't, where'd it go? Like, I know I have. Here it is. Okay. Vasari. Have you tried Vasari raw umber?
Sorry, no. The raw umber I've got is Michael Harding's, I believe. I think it's
this is the most. I'm not sure what the pigment is, because you know that you can look up all the pigments.
Yeah.
It says natural brown earth is the pigment. I don't know what number it is, but man, this gets the greatest for painting value paintings. You kind of use it like a black, just like you're using the Van Dyke brown, and it is so, I love it. It's like it's the perfect, to me, it makes these amazing grays. It's unlike any other. I remember trying to find, I had some of this, and then I was trying to find like a replacement because they're kind of expensive, and all the raw umbers I tried were different. I couldn't find anything like this. It's really different. So
that's why I started using Van Dyke brown.
Yeah, I'm curious if it's similar.
It's very similar. Looking at the tone of that tube, it looks very similar. it's the Van Dyke brand that I'm using. It's very rich and it's very thick. It feels like there's very little oil in it. It feels there's just more mineral in there than anything else, and it goes down really nice.
I'm gonna have to try that. I have to get some. I remember trying it way back when I was starting, and I just I didn't know how to use it, what I would use it for, so I never used it again. But I should try it. I'm curious because
you'll have to send us a link for that tube of paint, and I'll.
Oh yeah, I will.
I think I'll have a look for it.
I think you have to order like $100 worth of paint. Is why that's the problem. It's like every order has to be at least $100.
Hopefully after this show, because I do have to buy some more materials. Hopefully I'll make a little bit of cash from this show, and I'll look into it.
Well, I'm sure you will from the workshop, if nothing else. That's cool. Those can be lucrative.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, I bet you'll sell some paintings too. Are you going to do prints of those paintings? That's what I was originally getting to. Is like, I think those paintings would really sell well to the horror community. Really, people that are into horror movies and shit, because it's like it's kind of, horror movies are so maligned and kind of looked down on as like these, and a lot of them are cheesy and goofy, but they're not respected in the same way that, I mean, maybe that's not so true of the classic Universal stuff, but horror fans would, I think, enjoy those pieces as prints, because they kind of look they look classy, and they don't look, you could put it in your house if you're a fan, and it's not like you're putting some goofy rubber monster up there. Which, hey, I'm all about the goofy rubber monsters. Believe me, I love that shit. But it's like a lot of people, their wife won't let them put that in the house.
Put that shit up it, or
their husband.
I'm sure maybe the Frankenstein piece might not go up in everyone's house. You've got a jar with a heart, with a heart in it, a jar with some liver and kidneys in, and a jar with some eyes in it. Even though the jar with the liver and kidneys doesn't look like liver and kidneys, it literally looks like a stool sample, which is really weird. And
it's worse.
It's worse. So it's kind of like, why is Dr. Frankenstein got a stool sample? But
he's got to give Frankenstein's monster a colonoscopy.
He's got to give him something, Does Frankenstein's monster eat anything?
So wait a minute. Now that one piece, you're doing one for Dracula. Are you doing one for Dracula, or is that from another series?
No, I've done the Dracula piece. The Dracula piece that I've done is a bigger. That's the biggest piece that I've done. And
with the hearts, it's like got.
There's a heart, and I actually made.
Oh, there's two. Yeah, there's two stakes and a heart, right?
Yeah.
So cool. The heart looks so amazing. It looks like
because really the heart that I got, I ordered it offline, and it can always be hit and miss because sometimes the photographs that they put online is not what you receive.
Yeah.
And literally what I received was this bright red dog chew looking heart thing.
Oh no.
And I was like, okay, this will not work. This is, I can't put this in. So I literally had to paint the whole thing to make it kind of look like a heart. As much
I'm surprised because it looks totally real in the painting.
Well, thank you. But I've got it here. The paint has come off on some parts of it. So that was the heart in the jar that I did.
It came that red?
That red.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that's not what it looked like in the picture when I ordered it. So I literally had to paint the whole thing, and it's come off with the solution, the water and everything. And yeah, it's gross looking.
That's cool that you're able to paint it though.
Yeah, because the thing is, I was actually going to buy a real heart. I was going to go to the butchers and stuff and buy a heart. But they're not allowed to sell them anymore.
Really?
Butchers. There's a lot of like kind of the awful stuff. The only thing they're allowed to sell now is liver, and some still sell kidneys, but it's weird because I used to buy hearts and use them on my paintings.
Right.
But I couldn't find one anywhere. So that's why I had to go for the. That's why there's a couple of options of getting a heart. I either go out and do something really bad, or I buy this plastic chew toy thing looking heart. Because my budget was, I could have got a really cool looking one, but they wanted a lot of money for it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it was one of those things, bite the bullet, make something, make sure it looked cool in the photograph, and with the lighting and stuff. And I put like some fake blood on it just to give it that sheen and stuff. So it worked out. I think the painting that I really enjoyed doing that painting, because the colors that I did in that piece were, again, more color than I'd ever used in any piece. And it was interesting. It was a completely new color palette. I've never done a color palette like that. So it was really cool. And yeah, like I said, I made even the candles that I did. I spent hours melting candles to create it, so it looked like it'd been burning for ages. So I built all these extravagant candles all melted down each other, and
yeah, they look awesome.
So yeah, it was a fun piece to do, was that. And now I've just got candles everywhere from doing this project. I think that Dracula piece, I had like 25 candles in that piece or something.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, that's the other cool thing, is your studio just looks that much cooler after all your props.
It's just finding a space to put it all in.
Yeah.
So it's like my little curio cabinet shelving thing is just full of candles and skulls. And
yeah, you're gonna end up looking like this at some point, where it's just constant.
That's the goal. That's the goal. I just want shelving everywhere full of skulls and candles and loads of weird shit.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I was going to say about the your parents being okay with you watching horror movies, to go back to that. There seems to be a lot of that in America, parents having issues with that, at least from back in my era, 70s and 80s, especially the 80s. It was like a real, not in my family, but other kids, it's like it was a religious thing, and it seems like there's less of a religious problem. You guys have kind of in the UK, you have less of a
it's
less
definitely not
fundamentalism.
Yes, it's not. There is obviously, there's many religions in the UK, but it's not like what it is in the States. It doesn't dominate everything. I think there was a point in the 80s when the whole
the video nasties
and the satanic panic and all that crazy stuff. It did kind of bleed into the UK a little bit. But it wasn't to the extreme as what it was in the States. And then it's like at that time period as well, Halloween was starting to become a bigger thing, because before the 80s, Halloween wasn't a big thing really.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
So the 80s and 90s, that's when it really started to take off in the UK. So that was like becoming more socially acceptable, and I think that definitely helped with a lot of things. Obviously, the parents have their own, letting the kids say, "I know you're not going to watch this film," but if you've got a TV in your room, and with that in that time period, you had 4 channels, and one of those channels is showing horror films and Twilight Zone and all crazy stuff late at night. If you've got TV in your room, that's what you're waiting up for to watch.
It's just going to happen.
It's going to happen. So, but my parents were pretty cool with me watching horror films and stuff like that.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and it didn't mess me up too much, I don't think.
Nah. You made it work. So what were at what point did you realize you wanted to be an artist for your career, and what were the artists that you were inspired by and stuff, and who were you paying attention to growing up and all that?
Well, when I was a kid, I had 2 options that what I wanted to do. I either wanted to be an artist, so that the art thing was always there. I always wanted to do that. Or I wanted to be a paleontologist.
I hear that there's a lot of artists. There's a lot of makeup effects people that wanted to be paleontologists too. It's strange.
Yeah. I loved it, because when I was really young, sort of like say 5 to 10 sort of thing, I was just drawing dinosaurs. I was drawing dinosaurs, and then that turned into like drawing all the stuff I was seeing in films and all the fantasy films and things. I was drawing all that crazy stuff. So whatever I was watching, I was drawing it. But I didn't really know the artist. I did it. I saw the artwork, but I didn't know who did it.
Right.
Because you didn't have access to look for those things, and art books and things in the UK, they were traditional art books. It was all traditional stuff.
Right.
So you weren't seeing art books about like fantasy art or any sort of weird sort of artwork. If you wanted to see books like that, you had to really, really look and find some obscure bookshop somewhere, or maybe in a comic book shop. And in my city, we had one comic book shop, and every now and then you got an art book in it. And the one art book that I got from there was probably in my early to mid-teens, was a Giga book or Giga book. I did not see it. And then once I discovered Giga, because I loved Aliens. Aliens is one of my favorite films. And then it was like, then I found out he did all the creature designs and everything. I was like mind blown that I could. And then I went down that road of trying to find all his work and everything. And I found out then that my art teacher actually had one of his books, but she couldn't show it. She wasn't allowed to show it.
All right.
But she knew I was, this kind of the weird kid and the weird artist in school. And she showed me, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to get a copy of this book. I need to get a copy.
Do you remember which one it was?
It was a Necronomicon, I believe.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it was like a really big tabletop book, and it was so cool. And I had that, and I saved up for it, and I got that book. I believe I was about 15, 16 when I got that book. It was one of my prized possessions.
Yeah.
And then I lent it to somebody, and it disappeared.
I lent mine to somebody, and they lent it to somebody, and that somebody tore the cover off, but I got it back with the fucking cover ripped off. Oh, I'm still
devastated. Yeah,
it's a bummer. At least I got it back. But that's the cool thing. You see the alien and you're like, it's amazing, and then you find Giger, and then you see all of Giger's work other than the alien, and you're just like, holy shit, the alien was like amazing and cool, but come on, like compared to all the other stuff he did, it was like there's some crazier stuff than that in there.
Well, once I discovered who he was. And the comic book store that I went to, they had all the posters and everything. And I basically said to him, "Can you get posters for artist prints and things like that?" I'm like, yeah, well, if you tell us who you want, we'll see if we can get hold of them. So then I was like, kind of going through the artist store I wanted to get posters on. I was like, right, I need the Giga ones, and I want as many as those as you can get. And then I had like Roger and Martin Dean. Posters.
That's a book I lost. My Roger Dean book I loaned to somebody from the 70s.
Wow.
It was like I was like, probably 10 years old when I got it, late 70s, and then I loaned it to someone. Didn't get it back.
Yeah, I lending books and stuff like that out. I've lost many doing that. But there was a lot of like kind of. Like I'm not great with names of artists. If I see the work and someone goes, "Oh yeah, that's the person's work," it's like I know who it is. But it was like a lot of things like that. So a lot of fantasy artwork, and then obviously Geiger came into my life, and I was like, okay, so my bedroom wall was and the roof and everything. It was just everyone puts like band posters up and stuff, and mine was just covered in these massive like A1. Huge kind of like movie poster size art pictures, and just everything was covered with it. And so I think at one point I had this massive like kind of A1 sort of size poster above my bed of a Geiger piece, and it was like it was just like a crazy thing. People have like put footballers posters up, or they'd have like a movie star or someone. I've got this huge Geiger piece above my bed on the roof, and that's what I stared at night to go to sleep at. So
did you ever try airbrushing?
I've only tried it once.
That's what a lot of Giger artist Giger fans at some point try airbrushing after they discovered Giger, because I definitely did.
Yeah, I definitely tried it. I was terrible at it, and it was one of those things of pure frustration. I'm never doing this again.
Right.
It was one of like when I first started doing oil, when I first was introduced to oil painting, same thing. Because before that, I was just doing a lot of color pencil and acrylic work and gouache and all that sort of stuff. And then I used oils and I was like, no, this is too hard. Don't understand it. Never touch it again. And it was like a couple more years later, and then I tried it again. I was like, no, I'm not doing this again. And then I got into it, and that sort of kept happening. Every couple of years, I'd try it again, and it was like, and then I started to work with it more and more, and then I didn't go back. And I never picked up any other medium after.
Right.
So I've pretty much used oil paint since my early 20s.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I just love it. I love it. The dream would be an oil paint that you could hit with like some kind of laser gun or some kind of magic ultraviolet gun, and you could dry it if you wanted to, but then you could not dry it if you didn't want to.
Yeah.
That would be the only way to improve oils. But I'm so used to the drying time that it's like once you become used to the drying time, you just change the way you paint a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's like I still use liquid in my if I know that I need to get work done, I'll put a little bit of liquid.
Right.
Over the years, it's definitely got less and less and less liquid.
Yeah. Same here.
Now it's just like maybe a little drop, and I'll go, okay, I know maybe by tomorrow, maybe by 48 hours, that'll be touch dry, and I can glaze over it. I can work in a little bit because I work in sections when I'm doing a piece. So I still use liquid. I know if someone wants to use liquid, they can use it. If they don't want to use it, I know there's a big thing like don't use liquid. It kills your work and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I mean, my dad, I got paintings from my dad. He used liquid, and they're great. Although I have been using no medium lately, and
just doing it like alla prima.
Yeah. For some of these studies, I mean, I'll use, if I need to thin the paint out, I'll use a little terps maybe, or I'll use a little liquid maybe. But it's like the way I taught myself was liquid in everything.
That's
because it's like I have to have them dry the next day because my time is so limited because I'm working in effects, and my time frame of when I can paint is so narrow. It has to be dry before I can go back to it. So it was just like I got in the habit, and I did that just for years and years and years. I mean, really up until a few years ago, and now I started using less and less, and now I'm using like I said, just on these studies, just not really any, and because there's not I don't need them to dry, and they're just studies that they're alla prima studies for the bigger paintings after. And I do love, there's something I love about painting just with straight oils. There's like a different consistency when you are not thinning it down at all, really different feeling. There's like it's hard to explain, you know what I mean?
It definitely moves across the canvas or panel or whatever. It moves different, it flows different. And I've noticed that since I'm only using a small amount of liquid now. Like you said, it's like liquid has got to be in everything. Everything it's got to be in everything. And now it's kind of like I just put it where it needs to be. And if it's going to take a little bit longer to dry, I can't be waiting for like a week, 2 weeks, 6 months for something to dry. It's got to be, within reason. But if just that little kind of like dip on the brush, and then that's about as much as I use now.
That's cool. Have you ever tried lead white or white?
That's what I use now. I use lead white. Before,
man, that stuff is amazing.
I was only using titanium white for years, and then I got this lead white from Michael Harding, and I haven't looked back.
That's the way that traditionally the best way they say you're supposed to paint. The hardcore purists are like, no medium, no liquid, and lead white because lead white makes the strongest paint film out of all the paints. And usually you're mixing lead white in with most colors anyway. Maybe not true with yours because yours are so dark, but for like traditional paintings that aren't super dark, you're using white as kind of like you're mixing it in with most of your colors, so it's a fast dryer too.
It just dry a lot faster, yeah.
So it dries your paints faster. It makes a stronger paint film. And what I love about it when I first started using it was like just how weak it is, how weak it tints. It's so nice to not
you only
like
need a small
I
amount.
know. Just to lighten it up.
Amount, I love it. That's what once I did it, I was like, holy shit! I've been buying these big 200 mil tubes of titanium white and going through them like crazy.
Right.
And then I'll buy this little 60, 70 mil tube, and it's lasting a year.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I'm only using like a tiny little amount of it in the work.
Right.
Just when it's needed, but I'm also when I'm doing that, I'm mixing up, say I want to make like a pale blue. So I'll use like I'll have different mixes of those pale blues, and then I'll mix that pale, say like blue and white mixture together. I'll make that color up, and then I'll add that to another mix of blue or straight blue to tint that blue. So it's not completely killing the color. So it's already mixed with blue. It's already set to go, and then I mix that with another blue, like straight out of the tube. So it doesn't kill the color. It's not desaturating it, which was happening with titanium. It just desaturates all the color.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about the lead white is like you can mix a lot into it without it overtaking the paint. It's really weird. It's really different. It's really different than any other paint I've ever used. It's just like I had to get over the fear of it being lead for so long. And then, I think someone mentioned to me that cadmium colors were more toxic than lead white.
Yeah, that's what I've always been told.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, shit, I'm not afraid to use cad red and cad yellow. I have them on my palette, so I should be using lead white, but I'm like still super for some reason, growing up, because I grew up in a time when kids were eating lead paint chips because houses from the 60s they were painting with lead paint. And so it's like I've got this fear put into me about lead paint being like the most evil thing in the world.
I think if as long as you're not buttering your bread with the stuff, I think
I know. I think that
if you keep it like, I can't wear gloves when I paint.
Same here. I can't stand wearing gloves. So
I just like, if I get it on my hands, I just try not to touch my face, which is hard. You've got a beard and stuff like that. You're constantly touching your face, but I just keep my hands clean.
Exactly.
As best as I can.
I'm very conscious of paint getting on my hands, and I got these these scrub things, that by my easel. These are the best scrubs in a bucket.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so just kind of cleaning. Yeah.
So if I get any on me, I just wipe it right off. If I'm still freaking out, paranoid about it, I go wash my hands. But I know, like Gabe, my friend Gabe Leonard, he wears gloves, and I asked him about it, and he says he can't help getting paint on his hands. Some people just like, they paint messy and they get paint on their hands. So it's like, it's easier. I understand that, but I just had to wear gloves so much in the effects, working in effects, and it's like they're nasty and sweaty, and it's like, ugh, I don't want to do that.
There's a weird thing with gloves. It's like, I did try for a while doing it, and I couldn't feel the brush. I couldn't feel the texture of the brush, and it felt it was almost like my hands was losing grip, because it was like it felt alien in my hands.
Yeah,
I have to have that contact with the brush, and I have to actually feel the material.
Like wearing a condom.
Yes,
painters.
It's exactly the same as wearing a condom. It's two completely different sensations. One of them feels weird and wrong. The other one feels great.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, it's the best analogy. I didn't want to go down that route. You went there, but I completely agree. It is the exact same feeling.
I mean, it's like with I don't know. To me, it's like painting is so fun. I want it to be like as enjoyable as possible. So I don't want to, I don't want the safety to get too much in the way of how much fun it is. You know what I mean? And it's like gloves just for me are like a bridge too
sterile.
far.
It's too sterile.
Yeah.
As well. You kind of get that clinical feeling of it.
But I mean, right. I know a lot of people that I know, like sculptors. I see sculptors using gloves, and I'm like, how can you sculpt with gloves? Because so much of it is the feeling of the clay on your fingers. But whatever works for you is.
Yeah, it's all good.
Same
things. It's whatever works for you. I've been told off many times as well when I'm painting, and even though I've cleaned the brush and I'm cleaning it in like terps and things, and I see it's slightly losing its tip when I'm painting, so I still put it in my mouth. I still put it in my mouth, and I'll shape it back out before I start painting again. It's like, that tastes funny, but I'll keep going. And I've done it when there's paint on it.
Oh my God!
There's occasions where I've got a mouthful of paint, and I'm still going. I'm sure later on down in my life it might affect me, but right now I'm having too much fun with painting.
I remember I've told the story for my dad going to see him when, one day, and it's like he had cadmium orange paint on his fingers, and because he was painting, and I was like, you can't, that's so toxic. And he's like, it's fine. He didn't even give a shit. And it was like, he didn't die anything related to cadmium poisoning. It's like, I think it's like an overabundance of caution, which is good. But I think if you're not stupid about, like you said, if you're not buttering your bread with it and eating it, you're probably fine. I
think the only time I would be a little bit more cautious with using the materials is if I was making my own paints. So using the
breathing
it in,
I would,
absolutely. That's what got Turner and his dad. That's what they were doing. There were piles of
oh my God, can
toxic and just grinding it with no breathing stuff.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
It's everywhere. So that would be the only time I think if I was mixing my own paints up, I would have the mask on, I'd have the gloves on, it'd like full hazmat suit with a ventilator. And,
That's just another reason why not to mix your own paints. So it's like, none of the old masters would be mixing them. And they used to have assistants mix their own paint. None of them wanted to mix their own paint. They had to mix their own paint because they couldn't go and buy it.
It's so goddamn expensive to buy it when it was already mixed. So,
right.
I think that's why we're pretty lucky now. Even so, some paints are still pretty expensive to get, but you're getting decent quality with the paints. I've got a variety of different tubes of paint, so I'm not completely kind of anal about, I'm only going to use the top quality paint. As long as I won't use student grade paints, but I'll use, even if it's not costing me $100 a tube of paint, I'm not interested. I'm not bothered if it's not costing crazy money. Once it does the job and it's going to work.
Well, it's funny too, because like, you find certain brands and certain colors that just suit you better than like a higher quality paint of that same color. I know it's like, for me, it's like, I'll always get a certain type of this color, I'll always get a certain type of this color. And so I don't know a lot of artists that use all the same brand. It's not.
My main three brands are like Winsor & Newton, which
me too.
A mix of all the Winsor & Newton sort of like levels. I've got all different levels because sometimes even the cheaper ones, I'm not using it to do a massive thing. It might just be to tint a little bit of color. It's a little tiny thing, and for me personally, I can't spend 40, 50, 60 pound on a small tube of paint when I'm only using a tiny little thing of it. it doesn't make sense economically for me to do that. But I've got other colours like the like gambling or the Michael Harding ones or the Old Holland ones where there's certain colours that they do.
Yeah, that are just
that are
unique to them.
Far superior.
Right.
So I find the colours and the brands that I like, and I use it. I'll experiment with some brands, certain colours from other brands, and it's like I bought them as of work, and they just sat there in a drawer.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm always someone like you just recommended that brown.
Yeah.
I'll probably, and if once I've got the cash, I'll probably buy a tube and be like, thanks, Chet.
You got to try it. That's one of those ones. It's like that's the only brand that makes that kind of raw umber that I've found, and it's so great. It works so well for those because normally when I do the grisaille painting, it's like I used to do black, white, and like yellow ochre or something brown, because it's too cool. It's like too bluish. Just black and white is just too cool.
It's too cold.
Yeah. So so instead of using black, I just use that stuff, and it's the perfect color for an underpainting, I think. But
well, it's like I said, I only use Van Dyke Brown and
So I'm gonna get Van Dyke Brown. What brand should I get? Van Dyke Brown.
Right.
And you can get some Vasari raw umber.
I will get some Vasari. So the Van Dyke Brown that I've got is Old Holland.
Okay. Old Holland Van Dyke Brown.
Yeah. And it's probably the most used color that I go through. But it still lasts quite a while. Like they're only the small tubes that I get, but a small tube, depending on how much work I'm putting out, can last me maybe 6 months to a year. So
okay. Cool.
But normally I have a spare tube just in case, because I don't want to be running out.
Right.
Because I mix it in with everything, even when I'm like wanting to knock a tone down on a color. People use like burnt umber and raw umber and stuff like that just to knock a color down. I'll use a little bit of that Van Dyke Brown, just a small amount of it. I'll just take that saturation and brightness down just a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna get some right after we get off. I'm gonna order some online. Now I'm intrigued. It's like when I have so many paints that it's like I use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I use like 10 colors a lot, 10 or less. And I've got like, that's one thing when you start painting, you like think, oh, I got to get this color. I got to get this color. Oh, it seems like a cool color. And then you realize most of them you can mix yourself from like the basics, and they end up looking better too when you mix them yourself. I think I remember I bought this like a bag like this big, like a shopping bag that some guy I found on Facebook. He worked at an art store at like a Dick Blick, which is like this big kind of corporate art store out here. And he used to steal them. I didn't know the guy, but he was offering them for sale. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good deal. It's like a couple $100 for all these oil paints. And I was like, yeah. And then he just like, he's like, I'm in the area. I'll bring them over to you. And then he brought him over. He's like, yeah, I work at Dick Blick and I steal them. I was like, okay. But they're all like nasty and covered in linseed oil and stuff. But I got all these weird colors that I'll never use because of that. Too many colors. I really should just like pare down my. I don't buy crazy colors anymore though, because I just don't use them.
Yeah, I have a certain, like you said, I've probably got maybe 10 colors, primary colors I use. Some of them are a little bit weird, but then from those, I mix everything else up from it. So
yeah,
it kind of works, and I'm able to mix pretty much most of the colors that I'm getting in the photographs up just from a basic palette. Some of them are a little bit harder to mix up. Like I still struggle with greens. Yeah, greens are a bitch. It's a difficult one for me to use because it's just a color that I'm just not used to using.
You ever see that Robert Williams painting Fear of Green?
No.
It's like an artist, and he's sitting in a canvas, like painting a still life, and a giant green paint bucket with a monster face is like coming out to get him, and he's all like going because I guess it's like a common thing of artists not liking green.
It's one of those colors that
I don't use it that much is the thing.
Yeah, I always make it either too bright, no matter how much. And it's like, I know I can see this green, and it's kind of like that dirty, dark, muted green. But when I try to get it, it either turns to mud or it's too bright.
Right.
So I can't get that ground, like that middle ground.
Yeah, I usually do like yellow and black, yellow ochre and black and a little bit of blue, or cadmium yellow and black, or cadmium lemon and black.
That's what I've been working with. Yeah, I've been kind of experimenting. But with these new paints I've been doing, there's a green in there that I had to do because I made this little almost like poison or cure bottle for the Jekyll and Hyde.
Cool.
Piece. So the green was like insane when I had the light shining through it. So it's almost like absinthe kind of sort of color. But when you shine the light through it, it kind of gets crazy glow.
Right.
And I was like, how the hell am I going to paint this color?
It's out there. That's somewhere.
You
just got to figure it out.
That's the thing. So a lot of learning has been done with this new series of work. I've just got to put that into the next piece that I'm doing, which has already been planned in my head. And so as soon as I get back, I'll be starting another big piece. I'm going to go big on the next one. I've been working small for the last 6 months. I want to do a really big piece.
Yeah. Big is actually my show is I'm doing small pieces. I'm doing a small show at Copro at October, and I'm doing like 11 by 14s and 16 by 20s just because I just wanted to do a small show because that last one just about killed me. So
you were doing a lot of work for that last one.
Yeah. Terrible. Ridiculous. So, well, I guess it's time to wrap it up. Thanks for coming on the show. So where can people, aside from Skull and Snake Tattoo in Maine, Dan Kelly, your show's Friday the 13th solo show. If you're in the area, you should definitely go there in person and check it out. Dan, I'm sure we'll be posting online as well. And where can people find you online? I'll put it in the description too. But
so Instagram, I was pretty sure is M Darkside Art 1 is Instagram.
M Darkside Art 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if you just look for Martin Darkside, it'll pop up. You'll see it. God, I'm so bad at this. I do have a website. Yeah. I never remember my social media stuff. I'm rubbish at that. I was supposed to write it all down. I am having a new website built, and it should be up and running before the show, hopefully. I've got a friend who's doing that for me. It's amazing what the friends recently, what they've done for me just to get me over for this show has been amazing. So yeah, awesome. That'll be martindarkside.com. It's not up live yet, but hopefully it will be in the next week or so. And that'll have all my links on there.
Oh, cool.
So on my Instagram, the M Darkside Art 1, there's links for all my social media. Facebook's kind of died off at the moment. My Patreon's on there as well, and my print store and stuff. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, great, man. It was so much fun talking to you.
Really it's been great. Yeah. It's a bit more free flowing, and it's been good. I'm happy that you had me on. It's been cool.
My pleasure. So don't hang up, but you do have to say goodbye, audience.
Goodbye, audience, and I'll see you all on Friday the 13th.